Let's have a look. What time is it? Can you please check your watch? It's quite late. It's 10 o'clock. And I need to put my daughter to sleep. You see, she created some habits, meaning that she doesn't want to fall asleep without her mother and myself being together with her. So my wife told me, Amir, can you please talk to your daughter? Which I did. And my daughter, whose name is Eden, and she's 10 years old, told me, Amir, father, there's no way that I will sleep without you being in this room. I don't want to sleep alone. Makes sense, right? So I was thinking a little bit about it, and I was wondering, what can I do with my daughter? So thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking, what if you reflect a little bit on how do you do your homework, for instance, yeah? You don't do it together with me. You do it alone in the same room during the day. Right now, you are in the same room during the night. What's the difference? So she was inclined to accept it. And as soon as I wanted to close the door, she said no. So I thought, what if we are going to do a game out of it? So my wife was taking a shower. What if by the time that she finishes to take a shower, you'll fall asleep? And she agreed. So I turned off the light. And 1 second later, I told her, hey, what about a good night kiss? So yeah, we gave each other a kiss. 2 seconds later, what about another one? And she was like, haha, you are trying to fool me. I see where you're going to. You want to ensure that mom will finish taking a shower so she will catch me that I'm not asleep. 3 seconds passed, and then it was me again. Hey, Eden, did you call my name? At this time, my daughter was pleading, Daddy, Daddy, please stop. Why are you doing that? To which I replied, hey, you have the habits, whenever you go to fall asleep, to ask for water, to ask for another kiss. What's the difference? I'm doing exactly the same. So, power of habits. What are we going to cover today? We are going to cover what are habits, what makes them so powerful, especially in the context of agile environment. And then I'm going to provide you with a visual tool which can help you to address current habits and create new ones. I will also illustrate how can you use it based on some real-life experiences. So, how has been the conference so far? Make some noise. All right. Yeah, so my understanding is that you are having fun, you are not. You are really, really quiet. Yeah? Let's try again. How's the conference so far? All right, so let's build up on that momentum. I know that it's a little bit late and it's the closing note. So let's try to make the most out of it, yeah? Okay. So what we can do right now is please stand up. Oh, yeah, it's the end of the day and we need to stand up. Oh, man. Now, I have a request for you. Who attended Mikhail's workshop? Please raise your hands. Yeah, Mikhail's workshop. Yeah, so feel free to leave the room because we are going to do a similar exercise, unless you started exercising. So perhaps you're in a good shape. What I'd like you to do right now is to cross your hands like this. Okay? Really, really simple, huh? Nothing complicated here. Now, what I'd like you to do next is to do it the other way around, meaning to ensure that you have a look of how you're doing it right now and try to figure out how to do it inverse. In 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, inverse. You're all, yeah, oh, I can see some confusion, okay. Let's move hands back again. And let's try again. Okay, so some of us basically repeat exactly the same posture without even knowing. Okay, so it's really, really interesting. Why are we doing that? What makes it so difficult? So please have a seat and join me, and we are going to explore that. So what are habits? First of all, habits are behaviors, okay? However, unlike most behaviors, which are around 60% according to research done by Duke University, which we consciously make decisions, 40% of the activities that we do are actually at the unconscious level, meaning that we did these behaviors over and over and over again, we repeated them, and they rather became automatically. We don't even necessarily notice that we are doing it. Okay? Let me show you another example. So I have here a chair. And the vice president of technology welcomed me on day 1 in a given organization and told me, Amir, I'd like you to have a seat and to lead, which for me was a little bit wicked to hear, because I expected from that person to do exactly that same thing. So I provided him with the example that I'm going to share with you, which is from my army service. So the officer went back from an engagement, combat activities, was really, really tired after 2 days, and he sat next to his driver who brought him back to the base. And what happened was that after, I don't know, several minutes, the officer woke up and all of a sudden tried to pull the steering wheel. And it ended up in an accident. So it took them something like half a year to recoup. They are fine right now, okay? And I said, I don't want that thing to happen with our Agile transformation. I want you to have a seat, and I will be next to you to guide you. I'm not going to do that instead of you. Few words about myself. Who am I? Because I didn't present myself. In a way I did. I said it in Ukrainian. So I'm a coactive coach. I'm a trainer of training from the back of the room. I'm a father. I should actually have started with that. Really passionate about Agile. I have various experience collaborating with multinational companies such as IBM, AT&T. Yeah, it actually triggered me right now because Roland, where are you? Yeah. So you mentioned that a week ago you departed from Rabobank, and we have something similar. That is, a week ago I departed from ING Bank as well. It's the banks. Okay. Also collaborated with Mercedes, SAP, and some other companies as well. One of the organizers of global Scrum gathering in Vienna, which will take place between the 28th to the 30th of October this year, and some other stuff as well. What I'd like you to do next is to have a discussion with each other. How can you ensure that once you want to change a given behavior, you have the recipe for success? So let's give it 1 minute. Have a look to your right, to your left, and discuss it with your neighbors. Go. What's going to help you to succeed with changing habits? Right? Time is up. Time is up. Okay. So the good thing is that I'm going to share it with you how to do it. The bad thing is that we are not there yet. So please bear with me for several seconds. So what normally happens is that we have a certain habit. Sometimes we perceive it as a bad one, and we want to change it. And it doesn't matter how much effort and willpower we put into it, we don't succeed. And it really creates frustration, because we really gave ourselves into it. And then we try to address another habit, and the very same thing happens again. It's like a fulfilling prophecy. It doesn't matter how hard we try, based on our previous experience, we don't succeed. And it starts accumulating and accumulating and accumulating. No way out. Vicious cycle. Vicious loop. Interestingly enough, MIT came up with a habit loop, which is rather based on neurological science. And let me share it with you. So a habit loop. First of all, you start with a cue. That is a trigger. That trigger ignites the behavior. That is the habit that we are looking into. Then there is a routine. The behavior itself that we are repeating over and over and over again. And the final step in this loop is reward. Okay? And then the cycle repeats. Interestingly enough, it works quite well when you introduce a current habit and also a habit that you'd like to change. And I will show you how it works in a bit. So, you had a discussion for 1 minute. How are we going to ensure that we are going to be successful when we deal with habits? One way is, and it has nothing to do with Agile, like taking an epic, slicing it down to very small chunks. We need to do the same when it comes to habits. Let's say, for instance, that I don't read at all, and I'm interested in reading books. So let's say that I have Kindle and I have some books, and I say, okay, the new habit that I want to create is to start reading books. Yet, it's way too big. How am I going to handle that? So, one way to handle that is rather to slice it and to say, okay, what if on daily basis I will try to read 5 pages a day? So it's really small, it's really easy to do, doesn't take much time. So start small, slice things down. So it's a great place to start it. What can we do else differently? So we can have a look around. Just have a look around. Okay, and we see environment, we see some people. Now, if we don't have the right people next to us, most likely we are not going to be successful when it comes to changing the habits. So we need to surround ourselves with the right people. Another thing is also to ensure that in the given environment, we have everything that we need to succeed. So for example, I can say, okay, I committed to 5 pages a day, and I will put Kindle next to my bed, so it will trigger me to start reading. What else? What else can happen? So, did anyone spend some time in jail? Raise your hand. No one, okay, cool. Normally what happens when you spend time in jail is that you count down how many days you have left. Or let's use a different example. Let's say that you are on a deserted island, yeah, somewhere. And the rescuers contacted you and say, hey, in 50 days we'll manage to reach you and get you out of this island. So normally what we do is starting counting down the days, right? So for each day, we mark an X. 5 days passed, we cross them. What if we'll try to use a similar approach when it comes to our habits? So whenever we keep a specific chain, we mark an X, and we try to keep it as long as possible. However, there's a catch, because after all, we are human beings, meaning we are creatures of habits. So most likely, there will be a moment where it doesn't matter how hard we try, we'll fail. And what really matters here is our attitude. Because if we say, oh, I really tried to lose some weight, and now all of a sudden, yeah, I just couldn't resist. It was huge temptation. I had a piece of the cake. I stopped diet over there. It's pity. We shouldn't be so harsh on ourselves. We should acknowledge and say, okay, it didn't work as I anticipated. Let's start a new chain and build on the momentum rather than stopping it. Perhaps you know it from Disney, from Donald Duck. So in a given episode, Donald Duck has an angel Donald and a demon Donald. Okay, the demon is a saboteur. It's our inner voice which tells us, you cannot do that. Or come on, leave it to tomorrow. Or let's just see that new episode of Black Mirror first, and then I will address that. Okay, so all of that little things, yeah, we should be aware of them, and we should address them accordingly. And sometimes we forget to celebrate. Hopefully we are going to do it tonight, huh? Celebrate. Yeah. Okay, so I provided you a brief overview of what habits are, what is the habit loop, how can we enhance success, and now I will share with you some of my experiences with using these tools together. So 2 years ago, I was here in Kyiv, and I attended Scrum coaching retreat. And this is where I got to know some phenomenal people, and some of them are right here with us. And we wanted to address 2 dysfunctions, meaning Agile theater and Agile zombies. Now, tell me, how do you feel if I tell you that you are this? Yeah? What do you mean? I mean, doesn't make sense, right? So how can we actually have the change that we want here? So the team that I was working with, we came with a description of what the symptoms are. And I thought to myself, what if we create a workshop without mentioning Agile Zombie, Agile Theater, with some cards where the participants will have a look. So for example, do you have sprints for development, testing, and staging? If the answer is yes, just mark 1Z one letter Z. For instance, action items when it comes to retrospectives are moving to the next one and are never being done. If it's applicable for you, again, mark it as a Z. And the idea is that at the end of the workshop, you see how many Zs you have or how many Ts. Z stands for Agile Zombies. And then the question to you is, okay, now that you know that, what are you going to do with it? So instead of me pointing at you and telling you, hey, you are a zombie, you actually discovered it yourself and you want to address that. So if we bring it back to these visual tools, so the Q is the workshop where the participants discover some things about themselves, which perhaps were not necessarily at the conscious level all the time. Then they say, okay, what is the smallest thing that I could actually start with to address Agile Zombie? So it can be, for instance, one specific card, rather than all the cards together. And then how am I going to reward myself to ensure that I keep it going and keep it going? And then I move to the next habit that I'd like to address. Another example. I'm a certified team coach. And it took me 15 months, 15 months, to actually become a certified team coach. Because rather than taking an exam, which is really, really hard to fail, I went through a very rigorous process, which ensured whether I have coaching mindset as opposed to consultant mindset. And part one went relatively fast for me. And part two, man, I just suffered. Yeah, I had so many assignments and I find so many reasons why not to continue with the CTC. And at one point in time, I also received a coaching session for myself. And this is where I realized that I actually don't care much about becoming certified team coach. I really enjoyed the journey and the reflection on that. Equipped with that knowledge, I thought to myself, okay, but still, you started with it and you really like to finish stuff. So what can I do about it to finalize the application? So what I did was having a look at each of the questions. I broke down each question into mini questions. And then I said, okay, on a daily basis, I will fully answer one mini question. And I think that was my recipe for success and becoming a certified team coach. Another example is with a chapter lead who approached me and told me, Amir, now that I joined this organization, I understand that my previous behaviors are no longer wanted here. Meaning, developers approach me and tell me, okay, how do I do this? How do I do that? And that's the way that I got to use to do that prior to joining this organization. What can I do differently? So it was like, great, yeah, what can you do differently? Let's explore that. And the chapter lead came with a very simple solution, clever one. What he did was, what if whenever a developer approaches me and tells me, hey, I don't know how to do this, what do you recommend me to do? I will reply, yeah, if you were in my shoes as a chapter lead, with everything that is related to that, what would you do? So rather than getting the answers, the developers seek the answers themselves. Of course, if there were some major things that they really needed the support of the chapter lead, then yeah, this is where the chapter lead is for. But for some small things, it doesn't really make sense. We want to have autonomy in place. So what happened? Again, habit loop. So the cue is whenever a developer approaches me as a chapter lead, I tell that person, yeah, what if you would be in my shoes? What would you do? And validate it together. And then the reward was, he actually put it in an agenda on daily basis, and he could really, really see how does he grow. And after several months, it actually became the current behavior. It became part of that person. So from my perspective, it was just an enriching and an amazing experience. What we are going to do next, I'd like to pause for a sec and take some questions from you guys. What questions do you have for me? Anything which is unclear? Yes, please. Wait a sec.
How small these habits should be in order not to get into frustration again, that you even these small mini habits you cannot do on daily basis or weekly basis. So yeah, do you think there is a guideline for the size of or how you need to slice them?
Thanks for your question, Dima. So I would say that it should be a matter of minutes, meaning that it doesn't take you much effort, it doesn't depend on willpower, and it's that easy that you can do it over and over and over again. And then what it does, it really creates a motivation for you to keep doing it because it's really, really easy. And once it becomes part of you, you can look for, okay, what else can I work on?
And do you have some like period? Is it 2 weeks or 3 weeks you're doing something and then it's part of you? Or yeah, I don't know if there is a such period.
So interestingly enough, College University of London did a research about the very same thing that you asked back in 2009. And the finding is that on average, it takes 66 days to form a new habit. However, there's also an interval, meaning anywhere between 18 days to 254. So imagine that it can take you up to 8 months to have a new habit, or less. Huh? Yes, please.
What kinds of rewards can Scrum Masters use for their teams?
Nice ones. Yeah. So the question was, what kind of rewards can a Scrum Master use? I'm going to illustrate it with another example, which will trigger you to think, what can you do? So are you familiar with Just Dance? Yeah? Exactly. So what happens there is that you need to imitate a specific dance, and then you get some tokens, some stars. Now, the more stars you get, the more options you have. Yes. Okay? And just to finish answering your question, so what happens is that you can trade these stars and get something that you want. You can unlock a new feature, you can get an avatar, and stuff like that. Welcome. Let me just see if we have some questions from here, and then I get back to you. Questions? No?
How many
Thanks.
habits do you working on in parallel to build? Is there any recommendation from science?
Yeah. So what I normally do is one habit at a time. Because if you try several at the same time, in my opinion, and it's not based on science, it's like multitasking with habits.
Because I have 8 at that moment, which I'm working in, and just wanted to know your opinion and maybe best practices from the field.
Yeah.
So your recommendation is 1.
Yeah, one habit in a time.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Let's move on.
Based on the answers, I think that team agreements that we create, they are also like new habits that we need to create in the team, right? So when you build a new team agreement, it should be a new habit for the team. So based on what you answered, the new habit is being built during 6 months. So, and also you should not work on a few new habits at the same time. So, yeah, I mean, so does it mean, okay, this is logical chain in my mind, does it mean that we shouldn't create more than one agreement at a time for the team to build strong habit?
Yeah. So I would say that, and this is the answer that we all don't like, it depends. It depends on context. Yeah. When it comes to working agreements, it can take even less than that. That is less than 6 months to ensure that it does happen. Many teams don't have a look at the team agreements once they are formed. It's like, okay, we have team agreement, check, and they don't have the habit to say, okay, is it still applicable in our case? If not, what should be changed?
May I continue with? May I continue?
Yeah,
elaborate on this? Yeah, and perhaps when you are really will to do something differently, you have some desire, motivation, and everything, and you see what the benefit you will receive. Unlike with the team, even in the case when they create, for example, formally create team agreements like activity. And I think they fail to follow because there is no true intent and desire behind it. Sometimes informal, without any agreement, they find out and develop their way without any document, I think, and then adjust it and go with
so for many people, willpower alone is not enough. And this is where such tools can be really, really helpful. Because it's really logical and easy to follow, and it doesn't take much effort. Yeah. Okay. Right. How do I stand time-wise? 15 minutes. Okay, cool. Okay. Yeah, we have one more question.
Okay, and is there some specific methods that we can unlearn to do this? Some things the way we do to unlearn, to work with yourself some specific way, some to have like to do a hard work within yourself to unlearn things.
Yeah. So what I normally do is to use these tools, and I have 2 habit loops. That is one habit loop for the current behavior, the one that I want to change, and one habit loop for the habit that I want to create, the new one. And then I keep it, and it's in sync, so you can see all the time also when it's a matter of deviations.
And the last one from me. Can you share some example how this loop, or maybe not loop, those examples could be used in the team development? So I mean, okay, you can teach the team to start small, then how you can help them to change environment, for example. Like, can you lead some example working with the team in this case?
Yeah, so it can be as easy matter as of the team being used to using some tools, however they are collocated. So one easy thing that you can do is actually to create some visuals instead of using the tool itself. Okay, so it's just changing a bit the environment and then it can also change the expected behavior. Okay? Yeah, welcome. Okay. All right. I'd be happy to share with you, following this conference, some more examples. I can sense a bit tiredness. So what I'd like to do is to wrap it up. So what we did cover here were what habits are, what makes habits, what define habits. Then we also discussed, okay, what can we do about them? How can we ensure that the new desired behavior is going to take place? And finally, by using some examples, you could also notice how can you use that tool. I strongly encourage you to give it a try, stay connected, and let me know how it goes for you. Спасибо.